My name is Emil Franchi. Big thank you to Gil. I cannot do it, man. Big thanks as always to Gil. Someone just buys a bloody t-shirt with it written on, would you? Guillermo Clothing. Didn't even have a drink at the match. Need one. Right. Welcome back to the Gallagher Shots YouTube channel. You're joining me, Emil Franchi, for what is the player ratings for Newcastle versus Leicester in the League Cup second round. Or at least we made it past the first one, even though we didn't play. Big thank you as always to Guillermo Clothing, GEORDIE Gifts for their support in this difficult time. It was an early exit from the Carabao Cup and it was nothing that we aren't used to, let's be honest. A decent performance from a depleted Newcastle side, and yeah, we went down on penalties to Leicester at St James's. Let's get through it then. It's quite a disappointing one, I'm afraid, but not a disappointing performance. Karl Darlow was in goal. Interesting to include him ahead of Dubravka, given that he was fit. Dubravka was on the bench, but I guess that this rotation is needed. And I know that this whole thing is there about us taking the cup seriously, but are we actually going to win it? Probably not. Most teams in this cup in particular will use their reserve keeper. Anyway, Darlow stepped up to the plate. It was amazing to hear the fans singing his trademark song to the tune of Spandau Ballet's Gold. He made some really great saves, some very good last-ditch saves as well. His distribution was good from the back, and certainly no blame in that deflected free kick. It came off one of our own heads, which is really just typical of Newcastle. But, you know, the penalties are 50-50. He made a save in that. I've got to give Darlow an 8. Kraft, after a few dodgy balls at the start of the game down the wing, he came to life. He seems keen to break forward, but he does lose the ball too easily sometimes, and a little bit late in his decision making. However, difficult start to his time at Newcastle, but I'm not going to kind of put it all on him straight away. I don't think he had a bad game. He also came off rather early, but giving him a 6 on this occasion. Manquillo came on in his place. I was surprised not to see him start actually, but he took over after the 50th minute and made some very good runs down the wing. The balls came into him. I think it was probably a good way of him to show Bruce that he should start over Kraft, but then again, new signing and all that, what do we do? Nothing was really clicking in the box when Manquillo was putting balls in. There was a few mix-up with Longstaff, Matty Longstaff that is, but he did really fight for us to the death. Manquillo gets 7. I had to think about that one there, but on to Fernandes, who really was good in coming in here. No nonsense. Brought an experienced head to the defence, and he made some very good challenges to stop Leicester in that final third. His passing was looking very good. He's just proven a very valuable stand-in, and if we're going to lose Lascelles for a couple of weeks, then I would happily have Fernandes putting those performances in if he can keep it up. I've got to give him a 9. Cher next. Some of his weighted passes were creeping through again, where he was just firing it in the middle of nowhere, and it was going past the players he was aiming for, or at least they weren't able to get to it in time. I don't think it's their fault though. Cher can be rather aggressive with some of his passes. However, more consistent display at the back, as ever, promising going forward. He took his penalty very well for a defender under pressure, but then again, he was he's our last remaining top scorer from last season. So Cher gets 7. Clark, again, a standard cameo performance from him where he doesn't seem to worry you anymore, providing some good cover at the back. Did his job, he made some crucial tackles, and he even had a bit of a sprint forward, which I didn't expect in the first half. It was right at the start. There was a couple of slight movements here and there of panic, but not disasters. Clark, I'm turning him into Cher. Clark gets a 7. He's got those 2 dots above the A now, apparently. Jethro Willems came in the team, and it was a perfect way to bounce back from that game against Arsenal, where he made the clinical error, unfortunately. A very capable fullback, I have to admit. He's shown his ability on the ball, quick turns, runs down the wing, and there was that lovely attempt to get in on goal before that spectacular dive/assist that led to Muto's goal. Willems put in a very good game, and I think it's a start of good things to come from him. 9 for Willems. Dummett came on in his place towards the end. A slight knock for Willems, which again is worrying after how much we had going into the game. He almost played a ball in that could have won it, really. He did that defensive job he always does well. Nice continuation from Tottenham. Good to see him get a little bit of play, but hopefully he's not too tired for the weekend. Dummett gets 7. Sorry about that. Richie, he was given the game his everything, everything he had from start to finish, drilling players around him. He is that core team player, almost acting as a captain in Lascelles' absence, even though he wasn't wearing the armband. It's a bit worrying about the injury, though, I have to say. Richie did play well up until that point, though. 8. And Atsu took his place off the bench. Again, made quite an impact. He tore through Leicester at times. In fact, I thought he was the perfect player to bring on against Leicester. It's a shame that Sam Maximin isn't there, because I think that type of pace is what you need when Leicester was just dinking it back and forward. It was very boring style from them, given that they're quite a strong side. But yeah, he was shown that he wants to fight for his place amongst those new signings for Atsu. So yeah, 8 for him. Hayden, another cool performance in the middle. Nice distribution. There's a few moments where he was a bit overpowered, but he helped guide Muto. I saw a tweet about him being told what to do, as in Hayden telling Muto, look, try this, when Muto's head was dropping a little bit. So that's the type of play you need. It's a shame he had his penalty saved, but again, 50-50 moments like that, you can't really judge a player's game on that. So 7 for Hayden. Shelby has divided opinion in the game, and there was some moments where, you know, he was showing off that brilliant ball playability. Then it contrasted with some of the shoddy loss of the ball. There was powerful attempts that were quite hit and miss, but there was one that Schmeichel saved, which could have technically won the game. Again, not holding the penalty against him. He's come out and apologised for it being so bad, but we do need some consistency now from Shelby if he wants to fight for his place. 6 on this occasion. Matty Longstaff was thrown in at the deep end in this game for his debut, proper debut that is. It's not too fair to judge him, I think, on this occasion. However, there were some shaky moments on the ball near the Leicester box towards the end where he could have made some very good passes. He chased down their players best he could to the end of the match, and you know, it was nice to see him get 90 minutes, but still, I think he'll come on a bit. 6 for Longstaff, Muto to finish. There was pacey moments, but not enough to cause a nuisance in the first half. It was nice to get a goal at St James's Park. That goal was on a plate for him, and he did grow into the game. He got better as it went on. He really, really wanted to do well. You could tell by the end, and I hope that morale improves, like I just mentioned there, with the stuff with Hayden. 7 for Muto, and that's it. I'm very knackered, so just to quickly go into it, given the injury circumstances, it's a real shame we went out like that. We conceded a fluke goal, fought hard against quite a strong Premier League starting lineup, and penalties are cruel, and it's another year with another cup exit, but hopefully resting those players that did have injuries will pay off ahead of that big game against Watford on Saturday when we're home once again. So I will see you very soon. Thanks to our sponsors, Guglielmo Clothing and GEORDIE Gifts. And don't forget to book your coaches now for Wembley for when we get to the final in the FA Cup, of course. Come on, Willems!